Google's move to purchase Motorola Mobility may be a crafty but expensive maneuver on the battlefield of the patent war. To explain what this means for Google's smartphone competitors, including Research in Motion and Apple, are Ron Laurie, chairman of Inflexion Point Group, and Ron Epstein, CEO of Epicenter IP Group. And just last week, we were all three talking about the same issue before Google made this move. Google was in a very vulnerable position in terms of patents. Now they've got potentially 17,000 patents coming from Motorola. How big a move is this for Google?
They've become a patent superpower overnight.
Really? So, I mean, does this mean they're impenetrable?
Well, it means that they can present the threat of mutually assured destruction to Apple, for example. I think the analogy to the Cold War is irresistible. I think we are approaching detente. We've now got critical mass on both sides, and I don't think anybody's going to start firing missiles now.
Detente? Are we in detente?
Listen, a week ago we were here together talking about how Google really had three choices to get access to the innovation from these companies like Apple and Nokia, et cetera. One option was to take the innovation out of their products. One option was to pay a toll. And the third option was to buy access to a pool of innovation that those folks like Apple would want access to. Well, here we are 5 days later, and they sure as heck bought access to a big pool of innovation. But that innovation applies only in the wireless field. Google also has challenges outside of wireless. For example, the Oracle Sun debate over Java and other related technologies.
They're facing a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit from Oracle still over the Java language. What about the patent trolls? Is that going to be a big issue for Google?
Well, I'm not totally sure if I added up all of the money spent on the patent troll wars, whether it would even get to the $4.5 billion spent on the acquisition of the Nortel portfolio, let alone the $12.5 in this deal. I think that's a distraction. Where patents are really valuable is where they were meant to be valuable, which is a measure of access to innovation and the ability for innovators to compete on that innovation without fear of copying.
So, Ron Laurie, what does it mean for Google's competitors, Motorola's competitors like HTC, Samsung, LG?
I imagine they're a little nervous at the moment, as some of your guests have been saying all day long. I think that if Google wants to keep them in the tent and prevent them from sniffing around Windows 7 and the Motorola play, I think they may have to sell the operating business. And, if I were to speculate, maybe they've already got a buyer lined up.
What about buying something like Research in Motion?
Google buying Research in Motion?
What about HTC or Samsung or LG?
Absolutely.
Buying a new operating system, essentially.
Absolutely, although Samsung, I think, as you said before, has their own operating system. The thing that's really fundamentally different about this deal, from my standpoint as a former M&A lawyer, is that this is not a patent purchase. This is an M&A deal. And it's one of the very first M&A deals that were driven by patents.
And I want you guys to take a listen to, we've been talking to investors and analysts about this all day long. Take a listen to one analyst's perspective on potential regulatory issues with this deal. Listen up.
I think the issue and the challenge could be with the larger Google ecosystem and the Apple ecosystem, whether or not long-term, they're getting too much power over the overall internet and overall eyeballs. But I think specific to handsets, today their market share is not even close to being in a dominant position. So I think that the regulators will be hands-off in regards to this transaction.
Google's already facing an antitrust lawsuit investigation by the FTC. Are regulators going to get involved with this deal as well?
I'd be really surprised if they did. I mean, this is classically pro-competitive, right? Google is a very innovative company, obviously needs to, in the innovation marketplace, get access to other people's innovation. Owning a large patent portfolio provides it a coin relevant in that innovation marketplace. I think the regulators are going to see that. If anything, this is going to be a sign to other players in the mobile computing industry, like HTC, Samsung, LG, Huawei, et cetera, who for the most most part, are also new players in mobile over the last 5 years, that this is a coin they're going to need to acquire as well.
Ron, Laurie, what do you think?
As always, I agree with Ron. Regulators.
You guys agree too much.
Well, we've known each other too long. Regulators are focusing on imbalance of market power. This has exactly the opposite effect. This makes market power between the two camps relatively equal. And so I don't see any regulatory interference.
So is this going to put a stop to lawsuits?
As between these particular companies, I think that's what I meant by the detente comment. I think that there's going to be some way that this all gets settled. So I think the lawsuits are a transitional phase until the balance of power equilibrates, and now that it has, I think we're going to see the lawsuits taper off.
What does it mean for the value of, like, InterDigital, for example, and other patent holders?
Well, I'm a patent broker. I'm not a former M&A lawyer. I sell, many different patent portfolios, and I'll tell you that this is just a burst into the public of a phenomenon we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, where patents, as a unique competitive asset, you have the ability to say to a competitor, sorry, you can't copy my innovation. It's a unique asset. We've seen the value of those assets go up. This is a red letter deal. There are huge stakes to play for in this industry. We're dealing with companies in Google and Apple with huge sums of money and able to buy the really premium assets. But I've seen prices going up across the market, and there are patents available for a variety of price points for a variety of different players.
So if Google has a leg up now, do you see Apple or RIM being more likely to really fight for that InterDigital portfolio?
No. It's hard to say, but what InterDigital represents is the same thing Motorola represents, which is a potentially, let's say, superpower portfolio in the wireless arena. Well, Google has that now. They don't need a second superpower wireless portfolio, but there is still room to compete on other technologies.
Okay, Ron, Laurie of Inflexion Point Group, Ron Epstein of Epicenter, thank you both. Great to have you guys together on again. Now